Hey there, me again. Welcome back to another video. As you guys might know, I am a bit of a lens hoarder, lens collector, and today I thought it would be cool to go over one of my favorite lenses that I have, and maybe one of the best lenses that I have in my collection, and that is the Canon 50mm f1.4 LTM lens, also called the Japanese Summilux. So let's talk about the specs of this lens real quick and get that out of the way. The Canon 50mm f1.4 LTM lens was made in 1957, and it's a planar design with 6 elements in 4 groups. It's got 9 aperture blades, and the aperture ranges from f1.4 to f22. It's got a 48mm filter thread size, and like many LTM lenses of the day, it's got a minimum focusing distance of 1 meter. Also, like many LTM lenses of the day, it's got a 180-degree focus throw, which is a little bit longer than modern rangefinder lenses, but it's very, very good for critical focusing, especially since it's very well dampened, but maybe not the best choice for you fast-focusing street photographers out there. It also has an infinity lock, which Canon did on quite a few of their lenses, and I think they did that just to make unscrewing the lens a lot easier without turning the focus ring. But I found it kind of annoying, so I just unscrewed it. It's a really simple thing to take off, and you still have the body of the focus tab to use. So the lens is made of brass, and it's listed at 246 grams. Mine came in at 243 grams. I assume that's because I weighed it without the lens caps or the infinity lock on the lens. But it's a pretty weighty lens, especially when I compare it to my Jupiter 12, which is made of aluminum, I believe. And it feels really, really nicely balanced on the Canon P. It's not too long of a lens body, and it counteracts the kind of forward-facing strap lugs that the Canon P has. So when I'm wearing it on a strap just on my side, it really balances it out, and it's not crooked when I'm just wearing it around my shoulder. So now let's talk about image quality. I think the image quality on this lens is fantastic. It's really sharp across the frame. It's even decently sharp at 1.4, very sharp in the center, but once you stop it down to say 2.8, it's pretty sharp across the frame. So for a lens this old, I think that's very, very good. In terms of bokeh and out of focus elements, I think this lens does a really, really fantastic job. It falls out of focus very, very cleanly when you're shooting at 1.4, and it doesn't really have that swirly, distorted look like a Helios 44-2, for example. I think the way this lens transitions from in focus to out of focus is probably why it got that Japanese Summilux nickname, but I don't really think that's fair because this lens came out 2 years before Leica's original Summilux, and I think the fact that they beat Leica to the punch and made Leica have to hurry up and create a fast 50 of their own kind of should put this lens in a class all its own. In terms of other image quality characteristics, it does have some vignetting at the lower apertures, but I don't think it really gets that bad and it's not that distracting. I actually kind of prefer it when you're using it for something like portraits. I think it's going to be really, really nice. In terms of contrast, it's kind of right in the middle. And saturation, I would say it's kind of a low saturation lens. I don't think the colors come out super saturated right out of camera when you're shooting with this lens, but you can always boost that if you want. And if you're looking for a low saturation look, then this is going to be a good lens for you. Also, if you're shooting contrasty scenes, you might notice the highlighted areas of an image kind of have a glow to them, especially when you're shooting wide open. And I think a lot of fast 50s of the day kind of had that look and characteristic, but this lens is no exception to that. Another thing about this lens in terms of image quality is its propensity to flare. Doesn't have very far to go from the edge of the lens to the front element, so it does flare fairly easily. So if you're going to buy one of these lenses, keep an eye out for one that comes with a lens hood. Now let's talk about a kind of unique use case for this lens, and that's using it for video. Now I've actually used this lens quite a bit for some video footage, and I really like the look out of it. It's very fast, so it's useful for shooting indoors, shooting low light scenes, and it's reasonably sharp, so that's an advantage. And it's just really, really nice to pull focus with this 180-degree well-dampened focus throw. It's very, very nice. And I just really, really love the size of this lens when it's mounted to my Sony a7 III. I think it just really fits that camera very well. It's really enjoyable to use for video. Now, I will say the flaring does look very cool for video, but if you don't want it, just use a matte box, use a lens hood, and you'll be fine. So I think the most attractive part about this lens is the value for money aspect. This lens can be found pretty easily from $200 to $250 US. I got this one for $200 and it's super clean. And I think the reason that it's so well priced is, one, they made it for 15 years, so there's a lot of these lenses out there. And two, I think this lens was kind of overshadowed by Canon's 51.2 and 50.95 Dream lens that just on paper sound way cooler. So I don't think this lens really got the shine it deserved, and now you can find them pretty affordably because of that. So final thoughts on this lens. I think if you are getting into rangefinder cameras, or maybe you just got an M-mount camera but you don't want to spend an arm and a leg for an M-mount lens, and you just really want a nice, cool, fast 50 that's fun to use and really nice quality, I think this is going to be hard to beat. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye now.